This video is going to look at synaptic transmission. Now on your specification, you've got to know what synaptic transmission is and also what excitation and inhibition are. So synaptic transmission, you've got to think there's billions of neurons around your body and they've all got to try and communicate with each other. And they do this using electrical impulses and neurotransmitters. So you can see here this image, the little axon terminals right here, the terminal buttons, they want to communicate with another neuron. And they do this by passing neurotransmitters across a synapse. So this image here, you can see the impulse arriving. We've got these little sacs here with vesicles, and they pass their neurotransmitters into the synapse. They land on a receptor, and that's how the impulse continues to travel down the other neuron. Now, neurotransmitters are just chemicals, and that are released by the vesicles, and they allow the impulse to continue on to the next neuron. There's loads of examples. A few might be dopamine, serotonin, and adrenaline. They might be a few you've heard of. Now, there's a set process by which this happens. So the electrical impulse travels along an axon, and then it reaches the terminal buttons at the end. And this causes neurotransmitters to be released by the vesicles. Now, these neurotransmitters, they travel across the synapse and they bind with receptors on the other neuron, known as the postsynaptic neuron. And here, that chemical message turns back into an electrical impulse, and that impulse can continue down the other neuron. Then, the neurotransmitter, once it's passed that impulse across, it's released by the receptor and gets reabsorbed back into the presynaptic cell. So here we are. The impulse will travel down this axon here into the presynaptic cell. The neurotransmitters get released into the synapse, into this middle gap here, and then they land on the receptors. And if enough land on there, the impulse can continue to travel down this postsynaptic cell here. And once this new little neurotransmitter has done its job, it gets released and it goes back into the presynaptic cell to be used again. A little bit of an easier diagram. You've got these little guys here. They're the vesicles. They pass the neurotransmitters into the synapse and they get caught by the receptors on the other side. And when they're done with their job, the receptors pass the neurotransmitters back again. You've also got these two terms, excitation and inhibition. Now, excitation is when a neurotransmitter binds with the receptors and it increases the positive charge on that cell. And this means it's more likely to continue. That impulse is more likely to continue on. Whereas inhibition is when that neurotransmitter lands on the receptor, it's less likely to carry on. It creates a negative charge on that neuron. So it sort of switches off the nervous system.